Welcome back to the channel. So, I made a video a few weeks back about some potential offensive coordinator candidates. This was prior to Josh Gattis being relieved of his duties, right? So the wording, it wasn't fired, it wasn't mutually parted ways, it was relieved of his duties. But we'll just say he's not here anymore, right? So, I don't know. Does anyone know what Josh Gattis is? Anybody? Anyway, there's one particular name that people are enamored with, aside from Joe Brady, that is Scott Frost. Now, we know Scott Frost from what he was able to do at UCF, parlayed that into the Nebraska head coaching job. But I asked the question, why settle for the student when we can have the teacher? The teacher is Mark Helfrich. We are looking for a bona fide quarterback coach. Now, obviously, I have an affinity for James Coley because I put high praise on James Coley for not just identifying Brad Collier, but really identifying Brad Collier, getting Brad Collier to campus, and actually watching the development of Brad Collier under his tutelage. So I still put that in high remarks. But at the same time, can't sneeze at Marcus Mariota. Can't sneeze at Marcus Mariota. Under no stretch of the imagination, cannot sneeze at that. I think Mark Helfrich would, being that he coached under Chip Kelly for such an extended period of time, he has that NFL, somewhat experience. Obviously was not retained in the NFL. And I want to say, I believe maybe during his tenure prior to, I read something that said maybe Mark Helfrich actually maybe interviewed here at the University of Miami, or he may have came here to kind of watch practice or something of that particular nature. But I do think there is what you may call it a familiarity in terms of knowing the program. Now, Mark Helfrich does run a balanced offense, right? A good mixture between run and pass. And I think that while I feel like he would be the type that maybe Mario would maybe bend for, right? Because you have seeing that you kind of trying to be pseudo Saban in terms of trying to get some former head coaches to kind of help, get this thing together. I think that Mark Helfrich would be a good candidate, right? Coached at a high-level program. Most Oregon fans feel like he knows that he's the reason that Willie Taggart and Mario Cristobal even got the Oregon job because of the poor job that he did. But I do think that the learning under Chip Kelly, coming in, running the ship, getting them to a national championship game, first iteration of the playoffs, I do think that should be, commended in many particular aspects. I don't think he's forgotten how to call plays by any stretch. I know people, we're going to look at it from saying, well, Scott Frost is coached here in Florida, and he probably understands some of the recruiting and things like that. But this is my thing. Most of you have said that, well, Mario's taking a national approach to recruiting. So if he's taking a national approach to recruiting, why not have another California connection on staff? Or a Oregon, just another Western contact on staff? Mark Helfrich. That can never hurt. Obviously from just the way it's broken down, seeing is that Mark Helfrich worked with the likes of a Jeremiah Masoli. He worked with a Marcus Mariota, worked with a Darren Thomas. He's worked with a myriad of different quarterbacks that brought some different things to the particular table. So I do feel like that he does have that particular type of expertise. I don't look at that from Scott Frost. I don't. The quarterback situation at UCF was a good one. I'm not going to take that away from him. But the quarterback situation at the University of Nebraska was abysmal by many stretches. And it seemed to kind of go along with what I've looked at Nebraska quarterbacks dating back to, I want to say, when was it? When was Rex Burkhead? I think that was, what, 2011 or something like that? Maybe 2009. When Rex Burkhead was the running back, and they had, I think it was Adrian Martinez or Taylor Martinez. Anyway, they called him T-Magic, right? So what I'm saying is that they've had that thing where it's like, we want the running quarterback. And it's like nah, man, we can't do that. But I do think Mark Helfrich would be an interesting hire. He's not a guy that no one is talking about. He last coached for the Chicago Bears. I haven't seen him. Nothing else on the internet comes up past his last tenure at the Chicago Bears. I kind of would hopefully think that he's maybe doing something that Greg Schiano was doing during his time off. Greg Schiano had a very, very interesting write-up. I don't know if it was in the Sports Illustrated or something, I read it, where he talked about how that time off allowed for him to get a different look at coaching college, right? And obviously we understand the situation that transpired where he got hired at Tennessee and the fan base said, we don't want you. And so, subsequently he ended up back at Rutgers, a program that he somewhat resurrected from the ashes, right? And so he's back up there trying to do it again. And so I think that's the type of thing that Mark Helfrich could do for the University of Miami, because we have a quarterback problem. And I said this on a previous video, man. I think people have gotten spoiled here recently because we haven't had a high hit rate in terms of the quarterbacks that we've recruited, but we've brought in some better quality quarterbacks as of late than we did pre-Brad, right? So we had a quarterback room of Brad. Obviously, Malik was a two-way guy. You bring in N'Kosi Perry. You get a Jaron Williams. You get a Jack Allison. You bring in Tyler Van Dyke. You get a Jake Garcia. You got a Ja'Cory Brown. Now, those are just some guys right there. Obviously, you got the Testaverdes and Machados. You're going to have that, right? But here, as of recently, we've done a lot better on identifying at least one quarterback that we feel like that we can entrust in, right? Now, obviously, we had that little rough patch right there with the trio of Tate Martell. Well, Tate Martell wasn't a real recruit, so N'Kosi and Jaron, then we bring in Derek King, but then we get Tyler Van Dyke to come in. So we've been batting a little bit better. So I think we do need to make sure that we get a guy that really, really can address that. And I think Mark Helfrich could be a guy that could do that. And if he still wants to bring in a James Coley to maybe be a wide receiver coach, cool. Even though, like I said, I have an affinity for James Coley and think that he's a good wide receiver coach. Or go get someone like Kevin Beard or someone of that particular nature, right? But I do think that would be a pretty good hire in all actuality. A guy that no one is talking about, a guy that I feel like runs an offense that would suffice with Mario as well as suffice with us as fans, because there would be enough run as well as pass, right? And he's seemingly a made man, in my opinion. And I think that Mario will probably respect him a little bit more and let him have his way, in terms of play calling, because he's done it at a high level and has a track record to support what it is that he's doing. But anyway, man, this is just a random video, man, just because it's kind of been on my mind ever since people talk about Scott Frost. And I'm like, man, what? The teacher is right there. The teacher is there, right? He's there. You want the student because the student is still fresh, but I guess it kind of goes what they say, out of sight, out of mind. But I think Mark Helfrich would be a good hire if indeed that occurred. But what do I know? But as always, man, like, share, subscribe, comment, and it's always about the you.